Okay, so now that I've got my carburettor the right way around for my Hyper 7, the next stage is to take off the flywheel, clutch assembly and the clutch bell off this engine and put it onto this one. So the first thing we want to do is undo the front screw to actually release the clutch bell. So the easiest way I find, if this is on very tight, is to get a rag of any sort and stick it around the flywheel like so. And then one of the handiest tools you'd never have in a toolbox, a set of mould grips, and just adjust it to the size of the actual flywheel itself until it clicks. Stick it on the table, hold it, and then loosen off the screw. And Bob's your uncle, fanny's your aunt, screw is off. And I'm going to be using that same technique to actually take the bolt that holds the flywheel on the actual shaft of the engine. Now, another major thing is keep all your parts in one place and put them in the order that they come off in, just so you know they're coming off in the right order. So the next stage after you've took your clutch bell off is to take the clutch shoes off. Now the best way I find to doing this, I've already taken one off just because I need one off to show you how I actually get the clutch shoes off, is to use a flat-headed screwdriver and lever the spring, which is this little bit here, out of the groove of the nut. And then once you've got it out the groove of the nut, is just to find a gap within this clutch shoe and push it up and out like so, and just knock that up there and it should just fall out like so. And it's as easy as that. To be honest, getting them out's easy enough. Getting them back in is a bit more of a hassle, just because you have to have everything under tension. Bang. And there's your 4 screws out and your job's done. Next stage, which is harder, is now to get this actual flywheel off, which looks to be that and that. So next stage is to get me mould grips and get a decent spanner and whop that off. So I shall be back in a second after I've looked in my toolbox for another. Okay, I'm back and I've found a persuader in my tool chest. So might be a bit overkill, but it'll do the job. Now normally I wouldn't be using something this size because the actual centre spindle where the actual springs rest would be the nut itself, but it's actually in this clutch, which I haven't seen before. The flywheel is totally separate from the clutch shoe pivot pins, and these are actually all incorporated into one with the nut. So basically it's one massive nut, which to be honest I think is a better design because it means you can get a bit of better purchase on it and crack it off like so. That was so much easier than before. Oh, so now we've cracked that off, we'll just unscrew that, and there we go. That's the little spindle. That's actually quite a neat design, that. Ooh. Like I say, when I got the engine I just stuck it straight in, I didn't bother to do anything with it. And now it's getting the flywheel off, which is just as easy as that. Some people have got flywheel pulling tools, but all you really need's a good hand and a set of mould grips, and then you're sorted. And that's it. This engine can now sit at the side, and we can now do basically the reverse on this engine. So we'll just stick this onto here. Just make sure it's totally on. There we go. So make sure that flywheel's on and it's not catching anything, which I don't think it is. Looks a bit wonky to me, but it'll straighten itself up once we put the screw on. So, whoops. Make sure we don't lose any of the washers. So first off, just loosely screw this on until you get it to bite up to the flywheel. Tighten it up as much as you can with your hands. Then basically, like I said before, do the reverse, what we did before, stick. Okay, I've now got the flywheel fully in situ, so the next thing to do is to reinstall the clutch shoes, which is basically just press them back onto their pin And as we can see, the spring slightly sits over the spindle there. Force it over with a screwdriver until it goes over the lip, which is quite hard doing it this way in front of the camera, but I will. And we have one clutch shoe on, fully working. So now all we have to do is stick all 4 of them back on using the exact same process and stick the clutch bell back on. So I'll quickly go and do all this, stick the clutch bell back on, and we'll be ready to install this engine back into the car. Okay, I've got the car back on the table because the next step, after I've installed the clutch bell there, running nicely, is to put the actual engine mounts back on. I've already started with this one. It's basically just the reverse as we did before. Sometimes, as you can see here, the nuts can go out of place, but all you literally do is push them back under the spacer and put them back on, which should be as simple as sticking using. Make sure you've got the split washers on as well. Sticking using, lining them up with the holes and just basically giving them a quick thumb tighten up. And then when you've got it on the car, basically leave them loose, don't tighten them up off the car because you want to get the right amount of adjustment. To be honest, I think I'll just stick them right there because I can't get it any more back that way, so I'm going to actually tighten this mount off the car because I can't get it any further back. Oops, same with this one, which has just popped out. There we go. So push them as far back as you can, then use an Allen key and tighten them up. So I'll quickly do that and I'll see you in a bit when I'm putting all the ancillaries on when it's installed in the car. So, okay, I've now got my engine in situ. I've set the gap between the spur gear and the clutch bell, and basically all you want is a tiny little bit of movement in between the two. A lot of people put these two close together, which can cause spur gears to strip along with the clutch bell, and that's just because when they get hot they do expand slightly, and then that takes up the tolerances that you've put in. Another good little tip is to put some grease on there, some copper grease or something like that, just to stop the wearing happening. So I've got to the stage now where I can start putting all the ancillaries back on the car. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm treating this car to a nice new gasket. Now the gasket on the bottom of the exhaust is actually fine, so I'm going to leave that there and keep that as a spare, and I'm just going to use one of the gaskets and the big long spring there. So we shall open that up and get the goodies out the bag. Come in here. So we need one gasket and we need one spring. So let's get you out here. One spring. Stick the rest of them in there for a later day. When you're putting these on, oil them up. Now I should have some WD-40 here, so just put some oil on the actual face the gasket's going on. And this will also have the added benefit of making it slip on better. Stick the gasket on there and it should just pop on. Stick some WD-40 around the actual mating surface where the gasket's going to go onto the exhaust. Stick some on there. And force you on. Ooh. Whew. Okay, after a bit of wrestling I have finally got the spring around the engine. The main problem with this engine, well, not the problem, but the main thing you'll find is the block is considerably bigger than a standard 21 or 28 block. It's massive, and the springs that come with most exhaust systems are designed for those blocks. So I've literally had to stretch this one right out to try and give it a bit more flexibility and then put it on, and even then it was a tight fit. So it all fits though, so that's all good. Oh, I've got a headache after that. I've exhausted myself. So, next thing, which is to stick on the throttle body. There we go, throttle body's on. Stick all the fuel lines up, get them the right way. You went around the air filter and down, didn't you? So I'll stick you on after I've put the air filter on. Stick the pressure line on from the exhaust. No, wait there. What am I doing? That's the pressure line there. Stick the pressure line on from the exhaust. stick our filter back on, like so. Stick you around there, and then stick you through there and into the carburetor, which is there. Oh, okay, bit tangled there with the pipe work, but that doesn't matter. Whew. An hour and a bit because I had to find some tools, but it's all done. One full engine strip and transplant. Now the only thing, I'll prefer this engine to sit a tad bit further forward, but I can't pull it any further forward than I have, so hopefully that won't split the spur gear. But God, that has got some compression, so whew, I'm happy with that. So now I've got all this in, the next stage is to test run it. So in my next video I shall quickly start it up, the first ever time this engine has actually been started, and then I think we'll do a few running videos to show how to actually run in a brand new engine. So hope this has been of some use to you all. As always, keep safe and I shall see you soon.